So I wanted to talk to you a little bit now. If you think that Switzerland is an attractive country, and there will be a lot of, you know, maybe also the other speakers will touch a bit why Switzerland could be attractive for you. It always depends on your company and your strategies, etc. I want to talk about the next step, you know, when you really want to decide. The first step is always a little bit that you basically are saying, yeah, it could be a good country. There is, I don't know how many countries there are. It's about 190 plus countries in the world. So actually, if you want to do export, you can export to any of those countries. And I wanted just to show maybe also a bit what the process could be. And now I need to excuse once more why we are going to have to change the meeting after the break, after my speech. That's because of these webinars that we are doing once a month. It's a webinar, should be actually an inspiration for the people that live in Central Eastern Europe and are interested in Switzerland. So we do with all chambers of commerce, Swiss chambers of commerce in the region, we do those Swiss Simple sessions always on Tuesday from 11 to 12. And there's a couple of topics, and you know, you might be also interested. And again, I'm really, really sorry. The new link is in the chat. If you haven't notice the new link also with the ID, with the meeting ID that we have to use after the break. So
yeah, sorry, Oliver, I've
yes?
sent to everybody also by mail.
And by mail,
okay,
thank you, Mark.
You should have it on your mail.
Great. My mistake, sorry. So I'm just going to chat shortly, who am I? Because nobody's introducing me, so I got to introduce myself. Then you know, what is a smart export strategy? How can you get market information in Switzerland? And at the end we have questions and answers. And yeah, I will run through some of those bits because you will receive the presentation. Some of it is then you can read it later if you're interested in this part. But I wanted it to be complete. So anyway, I just wanted to mention I had a long banking career, then I had a startup, then I was 6 years, as I said, with Switzerland Global Enterprise, and now I'm the president managing director of this Chamber of Commerce, and I am, which is maybe important to you, actually a marketer by heart. I studied marketing. I had a long marketing, sponsorship, branding career, and I am now president of Switzerland's largest marketing club, which is a networking club called Swiss Marketing Zurich. So marketing is something I love to do, and I think it's, in this case, also an important element. Now, when I was with Switzerland Global Enterprise, apart from maybe Kazakhstan, which you don't see, I also had an office in Kazakhstan. I also had one in Lagos in Nigeria, and one actually in South Africa. This was my area, and you see it does also it's also including my region for Central Eastern Europe, but of course was not my main focus at the time. And you even see that, you know, this bit here was not a focus for us. This is my company. I'm a business developer and a consultant, and I'm also a trainer. So I'm not going to talk about too long. Now, if you now look at my current role, which is a mandate, I am consulting the chamber as a president and director. This is the region. And all those are Swiss chambers of commerce in the region. Unfortunately, Slovenia, we don't have a Swiss chamber of commerce in Slovenia. Maybe this will also come sometime in the future. Now, the Chamber of Commerce, Switzerland, Central Eastern Europe, which is again, we talk about the Baltics, Central Europe and Southeast Europe. What we are trying to do is, we are a good non-profit company. What we are trying to do is to improve the relationship between Switzerland and, in this case, Slovenia. and not only in regards to economy and trade, but also in regards to science and education and in regards to the society. That is important, the last bit, because there is over 1 million people with a Central Eastern European background living in Switzerland. So there's a tremendous personal, link to the region and a lot of stuff that is happening between our countries. So that's why I also wanted to do something for the society. Now I only have 2 goals. I want to improve those relationships, and I want to make our partners, which includes the Slovenian embassy, which might include you as a company, more successful. This is my only goal. Now, how do I do that? I look at my role a little bit, because we are a small organization, this Chamber of Commerce, as a community builder. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build a large community of all the important stakeholders in Switzerland, which includes our members, which includes, the universities, the research institutes, the innovation parks, the institutional partners, which include industry associations, the government on a federal level, on a cantonal level, the finance elements, the CE ambassadors, and of course all Swiss companies. So that's a little bit what I'm trying to see as a community in Switzerland, and abroad it's the national chambers of commerce, like the one in Slovenia, the TPOs like Spirit, it's the Swiss embassy in the region, it's the governments in the region. So I'm really trying to bring that together, and if you're part of this community, it should help each and every one to be part of this community, because we work better in a team than as if we were alone. So that is our approach. What do? We do about 4 things. Is we consult exports, imports, sourcing, investments. So from your side, we can also help you with our partners to import into Switzerland. 2 of our partners are here. Prodigo is a partner, Switzerland Global Enterprise is a partner. So I'm always working with the best partner, but you can also always come to me, and then I'm juggling and give you the best address. We are also connecting people. We are informing, which is very important, I think, in Switzerland and in the region, because I think there's still a lot of prejudices between the countries. There's maybe wrong, sentiments about Switzerland in Slovenia, and there's maybe a wrong sentiment about Slovenia and Switzerland. And we try to bring good news about that. And we also take over projects like this training, for example. All right, that's our board. Not talking about that too much. You can check that later. Good. I wanted to talk about export strategy. I am not using too much time on this, because you are all specialists in this. What I just wanted to emphasize in this element is that, it's how I teach it at university. To me, an export project has to start with a strategy and a sound belief why you want to export. Why do you want to really export? Why do you think your product, your services, etc., are fit to be exported? And for that, you really need to do a SWOT analysis of your own company. What are your products? Are they good enough? Are they competitive in foreign countries? Is my organization capable of exporting? Do I have the right people? Do I have the money? Because exports always last, they take a while. Also, investments take a while, and they usually take longer than you think in your business plan. And so it's the export strategy is a little bit it's part of your business plan, really, but also something you really need to look at, especially. You have the right people. What about distribution? Do I have an existing distribution network that works? What about after sales? If I have a product that is very, sensitive to breaking down, for example, how do I basically, you know, organize my after-sale service, yeah. So this is really look at the company. Then look at the export environment. We will talk about later in the market that you're interested. And then also focus on what you want to export, because if you have many products, you can't export many products, but focus on those that you believe are the best ones. Then usually you break that down like in a good business plan. You have your strategy and then do a plan. So that means you have to break it down to a real strategy, a real financial plan, a concrete pricing, a concrete marketing plan, a concrete distribution plan, etc. Now, an important element of export, of course, is always which market to select. And, you know, I basically say start with an array of markets that you think are cool. So I think you already narrowed it down to Switzerland, but maybe you have a couple of them that you think, and I think that makes sense. Look at define what are your most important criteria for your products to be successful, and then put them like in a data machine, do your market research, and then a couple of markets will come out of this, and then you do a forced ranking of those markets. After that, which is a very, let's say, a broad selection of markets, you then should do a more thorough market analysis. We're also going to basically talk about that. It can be how big is the buying power, is it growing the country, what is the demographics, what distribution channels exist, the competitor analysis, do I like the tax system, how's the property market, everything that Sirpa has mentioned, and we will hear about this a lot again. But then after you have done that, then you're probably going to have one market which you are going to say, that's it. Now, if you are, for example, thinking about Switzerland to enter, it's not going to be all of Switzerland in most cases. You will have to segment the market. Switzerland is not really a market. Well, it depends a bit on what you're offering. Maybe you have a digital product or something, but if you're, for example, selling any kind of consumer good, you might want to start in a region, in Geneva, in the Romandie, in Zurich, in Eastern Switzerland, whatever. So usually you will also have to think about what target you are going to focusing on. I give you an example. I was a member of a startup, and we wanted to go abroad, and we felt Germany was the right market. But in the end, we ended up just focusing Munich. And that's what I mean a little bit. Sometimes, even mostly when you're small, you have to focus. Okay, and then you plan the real market entry. Not going to talk much about that. I personally believe start with a trial and error approach. By the way, when you select the markets, go and visit. Don't do it at home. Go and see and talk to the people and go into the stores and feel the market. That's very important. But at one moment in time, you've done your strategy, your plan, your market selection, etc. You have everything ready, and then just go try it. You know, it's like you're doing a little sprint. You go into a market, and then after 6 months, you adjust your strategy, etc., etc. I think that's the best way. And also, there's this good saying where you're saying, which is, if you're riding a dead horse, get down. So trial and error doesn't mean that you have to continue forever to try to make it a success, your import or export to Switzerland, for example. But it might also mean that you have to say it, I'm going to stop now. If you want to get more information, it's not the best piece ever I wrote, but I wrote a blog on LinkedIn about how to select the right market. Yes. Now, one of the most important elements of having to decide you know, what you're going to do is to define the distribution channel. And also here, there's going to be a couple of slides which I will not explain. For me, there's like the 3 points, the three three sorts of distribution. One is the direct distribution, which you're basically, you know, then you have your joint venture where you combine the two. Basically, you find a company in Switzerland which is basically doing this for you, and you create this joint venture, or you do it indirectly, and basically you're not in the country. And I have added here a lot of a couple of slides why I believe, for example, if you do domestic sales, so you have somebody from Slovenia, that is, I mean, it's very close, that's good. If you only have 4 hours, that's already a big advantage. Then you basically can take the car or you fly in, and then you have your sales agent. Maybe you know, they are basically have 2 days and they sell. This is possible, it works. But there is always advantages and disadvantages. And of course, it is clear if you, for example, if you found a company in Switzerland, like a subsidiary, you know, you get much more information, you own your own client, you have all market information ready. It's a question of how much money you can invest. Everybody understands that's probably the best to have a company in Switzerland to be able to work the market as good as possible. But sometimes there's just not enough money. So I leave you to this. Maybe you want to read it, but in regards to those distribution options that you have. Now, I wanted to very briefly talk about export success factors. Maybe you just want to look at this slide and then see kind of where am I strong at the moment. So one is, we call it the 3 C's. So competitiveness is one success factor, capabilities and commitment. Now, the competitiveness we touched upon. Are your products competitive? It's always good if you go out with a product that is mature, which requires little service because it makes your organization cheaper and your clients happier if your things don't break down all the time. I also think if you have a market where you are really good at, for example, the Swiss pharmaceutical market, the Italian you know, leather market, fashion market, the Silicon Valley e-market, the crypto valley. This is always very good because you understand if you have a strong competitiveness at home, that you will be fit for also going abroad. Then question is, how is the logistic? How standardized are your products, etc. This, I think, is very important. Do you guys have international experience? Which would be better, of course. Do you have enough money, etc.? Are you ready to scale? I think that's also important because you might have a lot of success. And I was once talking to Switzerland's favorite salad dressing producer, and we wanted him to export because we believed he's such a great salad dressing that it must be a global success. And anyway, the guy said, I'm not ready to scale. You know, I'm sold out. I can't export more. That's one market. I can't do more. So that's also a question. Are you capable to scale? And then also, are you, you know, is your marketing know-how there? Do you think you have a cultural fit to the country, which I think, again, is a very strong reason why Slovenia and Switzerland should actually work well together. And it needs commitment. Now, I'm not going to touch that too much, but export is a marathon usually. It's not a sprint. So you need to be part of your core strategy. You need the full support of your senior management. It is always a risk, so you can lose. You need to be ready for that. And you need to go the extra mile, because usually when you do an export, you will not hire more people, but it's the same people, like at my startup. that also do the exports. So it is a very big commitment. It's a big opportunity, but it's all of that too. So you need a commitment. Now, if you talk about the risks, I just wanted to show a couple of those risks. And when I gave the risks, for example, there was this natural risk, like a volcano is exploding, etc. But now we had COVID, and I was thinking that's a bit abstract. A natural risk, but there might be, I don't know, avalanches, I don't know, destroying your production. We had COVID, it was shutting down everything. So that are important risks that you also need to consider in your SWOT analysis. I think one of the biggest risks is that you choose the wrong partner. That is something, it's also the biggest success factor, that you choose the right partner abroad if you need a partner. And there is legal risk, you know, somebody's changing the jurisdiction in Switzerland. There's market risk that, you know, your product in Switzerland is suddenly having a bad market year, and actually volumes go down. It can be a political question that you're not allowed anymore to import into Switzerland. And of course, it's a competition, a competitor risk that, you know, suddenly new competitors come. So all of that is in principle the risk side of things. We actually did a survey. It's very old, 2010, but I don't think it has changed a lot. And the funny thing about this is the hurdles for going abroad often lie in your company already. And this is what you need to consider and think about before you actually want to export to Switzerland or invest in Switzerland. That's very similar. This is why you need to really take time for this export strategy and plan, because that's the cheapest, let's say, moment to say no-go. If you are honest to yourself and you say, do I have the money, which is always higher than what you think. The cost of internationalization is the most important export risk, which you can control yourself. Then am I committed? Do I have the right network, which you will get to know a lot today? All people that you see today can be part of your network if you want to come to Switzerland. Do I see a cultural misfit? And this one, do I have all the information I need in order to be successful? And this is what I'm going to talk now, how you can actually get serious information to be able to make a good decision if Switzerland, in fact, could be something for you. I would say lack of foreign experience. Well, you always have to start once. And that's what I'm always saying when I used to work at Switzerland Global Enterprise, but of course also now. You know, the near markets are the easiest market to export to, due to all those reasons I was explaining to you before. You know, culturally, legally, you know, we're all Europeans, and so it's great to start in one of your neighbor countries. And I will consider Switzerland being a neighbor country of Slovenia. Good. All right. Now, doing business in Switzerland, I just wanted to mention something which we can't stress enough. Switzerland is a very small country, but it's very heterogeneous. If you look at the cantons, and Sirpa mentioned this as well, and others will mention it again. Funny, those little cantons here, in those cantons in Appenzell, for example, we have like 10,000 people living in one cantons, but they are for sure they are completely acting differently. Well, not completely, but they are different to the people from Zurich or from Uri, and Uri is definitely different to Geneva, etc. So this is important for you guys to understand. Now, I am now going to talk about how you get to the information. So now you're sitting in Slovenia, you're thinking after this webinar, you know, oh, well, sounds nice. Switzerland could be an option for me. I am doing this, you know, export strategy for Switzerland. and now you need information, including a competitor information. One of my favorite saying, also being a marketer, is there is no favorable wind for the sailor who doesn't know where to go. Now, that's Seneca, and it underlies that you need to have, you know, a super well strategy in place based on very sound information in order to really say, Switzerland, go. And now I gave you, or tried to find you, a good example of market research. I'm sure you guys have seen this all before, but you know, I'm basically giving here you one other option. The first element here is, you need information to make an educated decision. There is no way that you can just, that would be a lucky shot, 1 in a million, if you enter a market without the information and a good strategy and plan. Now, you need also structured approach, what you will do with this information. Again, this export strategy, etc. And the approach, follow it strictly. You know, think about what is the model I'm going to use. Is it a canvas? Is it a strategy? Whatever. But then follow it very precisely and very strictly, and like a machine, fill out everything. And this will be the fastest way for you to make an educated decision. Now, we're looking at market research and information gathering. Now, of course, there's a lot of elements you can look at for this analysis. So you can look at the market, you can look at the products, you can look at various stakeholders, you can look at trends, you can look at the demographics, you can look at the competitors. I mean, this is a really, really long list, and you can't look at everything at the same time with the same technique behind it. But when you now go into that and you say, I'm going to look at the market, I'm going to look at products, I'm going to look at prices, I'm going to look at all of them. Now, what do you want to really look at? And elements are, for example, product and price. To be able to compare, you could then take products and price from Germany. You can take it from Switzerland. How is the reputation of my market? What is the communication strategy in my market? For example, do I have a good fit? Am I completely different than my competitors in Switzerland? What is the usual distribution strategy? And other key elements that are important for you to be successful, because you know best what makes you successful. And this is what I would look at in Switzerland. What are other people doing in Switzerland? Now, when you look at the competitors, there is, of course, the real competitor that you know, maybe even that they are already in your country. They might be in another country where you're already exporting. So let's say, I don't know, Merck and, or let's say Roche and BASF, they are real competitors. But the competitor of yours might also be the distributor that is taking share of your market. It might be your clients who become a competitor because they want rebates, they want different aspects of your products, etc., which is not good for you. There might be new competitors coming in, and there is also usually a substitution for your product. I'm just saying, when you say competitor, not just take the list out that you already know, but also think, you know, looking into the future, is there maybe a problem with the distributor, with the client, with new people coming in, with substitution, etc. Then now look at all that together. It's always good to, you know, have a lot of information from various different sources, and then create an analysis and an evaluation from all of that. That's it again. Now, I give you here a couple of concrete hints. Here we have, and I also give you a lot afterwards, a list of industry associations These are all sources of information that might be interesting for you. We have industry associations, for example, for pharma, for food, for electronics, for IT, etc. So they are a good source of information. Again, I give you a whole list of those associations afterwards. Another good source is in Switzerland, the chambers of commerce are usually in a cantonal setup. So we have a Zurich Chamber of Commerce, we have an Aargau Chamber of Commerce, a Geneva Chamber of Commerce. They are good sources. You can talk to them. They will always help you. We got Switzerland Global Enterprise. We have the State Secretary of Economy. They are quite helpful. We have a very helpful government, actually, which some countries are surprised about. They help us to do business well. We have, of course, you can use professional databases to get information. I listed here a couple of the ones, for example, Statista. It doesn't cost a lot, but you can get a lot of information from them. There is databases like Compass, and there's you might know them if you Google. There's dozens of those company databases which you might want to buy one, or you might want to work with somebody that already has a license, because these are not cheap. They have all information. They're really cool, but they are not cheap, of course. That's always like that. If something is really useful, it's not cheap. Then you have lawyers, fiduciaries. You have the big four, like I don't know, Ernst & Young, etc. You also have other consultants. They are expensive. That's to know. Then you have experts. I just want to mention two of them because you will see them today. You have Prodigo. They are excellent partners for coming to Switzerland and helping you export better. And the same with Roger Basler, who will talk tomorrow on Thursday. They are smaller. They're definitely not as expensive as the big ones and quite effective. Then JASA, good help. Trade promotion organizations of Slovenia, Spirit, great help. And Dr. Google, great help. What I also like, there is a couple of network organizations like our Chamber of Commerce. We have a lot of experience of people from Central East Europe importing. You can go to the Rotary Club if you're in the Rotary. You can go to the Lions Club in Switzerland if you're in the Lions Club. Another one would be the Swiss Trade Market Registry. In Switzerland, everybody has to trademark, and you need to go into this registry. There's also a lot of information about your competitors in this trade registry, e.g. if they are bankrupt or if they had a lot of change in the management, etc. What the purpose of the company is, you can find out there. Then, of course, web page of the competitor is really informative. The social media accounts are informative. You can follow their page, so you're always informed what the guys are doing. And you can, of course, do a real market research, which you can buy. Again, probably quite expensive, or you do it yourself. You can check the press from daily press, press releases from the competitors, specialized press for the industry. There's a lot of information about that. There is some independent research institutions, which is basically saying if they are, consumer questionnaire, for example, consumer rating. So in Switzerland, there's one called Swiss QualiQuest you can check out. You can check out Google Business. You can check out if they're a good employer. I think that's also important, because if they're not a good employer, they are not a good competitor for you, but a good competitor because they will be weak. And there is some consumer tests. K-Tip is the largest one. Beobachter is a big one, etc. So you can check that out if there is something about the people you want to know. Of course, you can store test, you can product test, and again, you can talk to the government. So that's a couple of informations where you can find it. In the end, when you have all the information, you first define what you want to look at, and then you research it, and in the end, you kind of like have to come up with some kind of a grid which will help you decide, what you in fact are going to do with Switzerland. And there's a lot of examples. I Googled this one, and there's definitely, you probably already have one, but if you don't, Google something like that. Now, before I finish off, a few words about market research. Again, in market research, if you define, you know, I'm not going to talk to a partner, I don't have enough information. If you find out that you don't have the information you think that you need in order to be able to make this educated guess, if you want to do something, then there is the time to think about doing a market research, especially for this lack of information, if it is significant for your decision making. Now, of course, it all starts with knowing what you want to do and what you want to find out, what is the objective of your research. Then what kind of information do you want at the end? Sometimes you're surprised if you work with an agency. Do you want only numbers? Do you want yes or no? Do you want lots of charts? Do you want the big report in the end? Then who are you targeting? Then who shall do it? You can do it yourself, of course. You can use market research institutes, maybe from Slovenia, and there is some in Switzerland, of course, yourself. But you don't have to go to a market research agency. You can do a lot yourself. And then, of course, you need to understand a bit what kind of market research methods are the right one for what you want to get to know. You all knew that. If you want to know a bit more, this is a good article which is basically explaining what kind of market research are available to you. You can read that. Now, all right, I put that, I got this twice. Good. Now, this is promised a list of industry associations. I was just going to run through those. The overall list on Wikipedia gives you an overview of all of them. I give you the biggest one, the one for metals and machinery. You have Swissmem. You have the farmers. Don't laugh, it's one of the most powerful organizations in Switzerland with a lot of political power. Biotech, medtech. In IT, you have a lot of, they're quite professional, those very well organized, biotech and medtech. If you look at IT, you have Swico, Digital Switzerland, Swiss ICT, Alba ICT. Alba ICT is in the French part of Switzerland. Swiss ICT is mostly in the German part. Maybe they do also the Romandie, I don't know. And there is in the Swiss Game Developers Association. So I think these are the biggest IT associations you can have a look at. The biggest, let's say, and largest organization for the Swiss economy is called Economy Suisse. It's an umbrella organization, maybe like a chamber of commerce in your country, for all businesses and all industry associations in Switzerland. Then we have pharma, watches, finance, textiles, construction, food, retail, chocolate. And again, these cantonal chambers of commerce, also very good source. Under this link, you get the link to all the cantons. So it's a lot of data which might come useful if you decide to do it. I also give you, as a last slide, maybe a bit about how you can collaborate if it comes down to marketing. So information about Swiss marketing market, you can Google those two. But if you want to find not an ad agency, but an ad agency actually, there is not one big one. The leading Swiss agencies is probably the biggest one. They tend to be expensive because it's the largest ad agency. If you decide to really want to work in Switzerland and already think about how can I do great marketing here in Switzerland, you might want to choose an ad agency. Another one is Werbeagenturen, which also means ad agency. A lot of those are actually in German. And another one, you can just go to search.ch, which is the Google of Switzerland for companies, and just type in ad agency, Werbeagentur, and find one for yourself. OSW, also there are other ad agencies for you there. And this leading Swiss agency, once again, I put it here. These are, and you see here, this is a ranking of the biggest Swiss ad agencies. They don't change a lot. It's the 30th top Swiss ad agencies. You can check out this ranking here. And smaller ones, I just give you one. If you want to do market research and you don't want to go to Link, which is our most important and the leader in market research in Switzerland, you can, for example, just go to Nadia Müller. I don't know her. I don't get any kickback. I just Googled her, and she's an example of like a one-woman ad agencies that also are around. And if you Google enough, you will find good partners that are not too expensive there. And the Swiss Marketing is the largest network of marketing organizations. All right, so now I talked a lot. I'm very sorry about having you know, given so much information. Again, it should be a lot, so you can check it out later. And I open the floor for questions if there are any.